Hello. Welcome to EasyVB, Tutorial 5. In this tutorial we will quickly cover some useful settings, syntax, and general information, such as where to locate the Windows Executable file, .exe of a project. We will demonstrate starting with our code from Tutorial 4. First of all, if you are still using the Visual Studio default color theme which is very bright, and are wondering how to change that, we covered that in Tutorial 0. But we will explain again how to change the color theme setting to dark. To do that, go to Tools, at the top menu. Click Tools, scroll down to Options, and click Options. A new window will pop up. Go across to Color Theme where it says, Light. Click the down arrow and select, Dark, from the 4 options. Click OK. The color theme will change to dark, which may be more comfortable on the eyes. Another useful appearance setting is for the size of the text displayed. If you scroll to the bottom left of the code view, you will find a text box with a percentage shown. At the moment we have that set to 100%. Click the down arrow next to the figure, and we can see a range of value options pop up from 20% to 400%. Let's click through some of these percentage values to observe the effect. Try 20%. We can hardly see the code. Try 400% at the other extreme. That's way too big. Try 150%. That looks fine. You can also type any intermediate percentage not listed, as long as it is between the minimum of 20% and the maximum of 400%. We will leave it to 150% for now. All users will have their own preference for what size is best for them. Next we will look at some syntax. How to add a comment or remove a code to comment. This is done with an apostrophe at the start of a line. Text written after an apostrophe is recognized as a comment, and not as an executable part of the code. We will try that. Go to the top of the written code and add a new line. Type an apostrophe, then any comment you want. Note that lines of comment in the code are distinguished and recognizable by their color, in this case green. Comments in the code are really useful to guide others who may be reading your code, to explain what the code does. They also serve as a reminder to the programmer themselves, about what particular sections of code, subroutines, and so on do. For long applications with perhaps thousands of lines, such reminding comments are extremely valuable when editing. So making comments should be practiced as a standard code writing habit. Another really valuable use of the apostrophe is to use it to take lines or sections of code out of the executable code and into comment. For example, if we place an apostrophe in front of the variable declaration line, beginning, dim, we can see that it immediately changes color to green and becomes a comment. The line is no longer part of the executable code. In this case, doing that actually caused an error. We can see the effect on areas that have now popped up with red underlines. So either we need to correct those errors with other code, or reintroduce the original dim statement by removing the apostrophe. For now, we will just remove the apostrophe. We can take out many lines and whole sections of code with this apostrophe method, and then write new code to test how new code may work. If we find that we want to return to the original code, we can easily bring it back just by removing the apostrophe. This activity of placing code in and out of comment is very useful in developing and testing solutions. It will be observed in further tutorials that we are using this method sometimes. Okay. Next we will look at how to change all instances of a variable name in the code. This is really useful to avoid retyping a variable name at every location, which we actually did in some of the tutorials. Let's try the better way though. Click on our variable, which we named event object. It can be observed that all instances of event object in the code get highlighted. Now right-click on the highlighted name. A new menu pops up. Go to the third entry down on the menu which is Rename, and click that entry. We can see that yet another window pops up, headed Rename Event Object. So, that is what we are going to do. To do that, click again on Event Object and type a new name for it. We will call it New Name Object. Go over to the pop-up menu, and click Apply. It can be seen now that, down in the body of the code, all instances of event object have been changed to new name object. While we are looking at this code, One question to ask is, did we really need to declare a variable? Could we not just use sender? Yes, in fact we can, and should, use sender in this case. If you have been thinking about that from tutorial 4, that's great, you are thinking like a programmer. Sender is not a variable, it is a system read-only parameter. But we can use it in some ways like a variable. Unlike a variable, we cannot pass a value to it. Its value is passed to it by the events of the running application. We can, however, refer to, or use the sender value, as if it were a variable. So what we will try now is to knock out 2 lines of code to comment, by prefixing them with the apostrophe. Knock out the variable declaration line, and the line setting the value of the variable, equal to sender. We do not need these lines. Then, everywhere else where we have new name object we will change to sender. Note that because sender is a parameter, and not a variable, we need to edit each instance of sender individually. We cannot edit the instances of new name object to sender by the batch method shown earlier. Once all instances of new name object are changed to sender, try running the application. As we can see, it works just fine. We do not need the variable. Referring to sender is the better method. Be familiar with this method as it will be used a whole lot in our code writing. On now to another setting to be aware of. You may have noticed when creating and naming a new project, that down in the lower left of the new project window, there is a field for framework, and in the field it may state .NET Framework 4.6.1, or a similar number. Click on the arrow and you will see a list of other choices starting at 2.0. This number is the version of the .NET Framework that your new project will target. What does that mean? It means that your application may only run on a PC installed with either your selected target version of the .NET Framework, or a later version of the .NET Framework. In other words, if you target 3.5, your application may not run on a PC installed with .NET 3 or .NET 2, but it will run on a PC installed with .NET 4, 4.5, 4.6 and so on. So which version should we target is the simple question, without a simple answer. For the moment, for tutorial purposes, we would suggest to target .NET 4.0, available since 2010. But it really depends on the intended users of your application and what version of .NET you expect them to have installed, i.e. how old is their PC. Note that, for applications already developed, you may still change the target framework from the one selected in the new project window. To do that, go over to the Solution Explorer menu, and double-click My Project, with the spanner tool icon. The application window will pop up. Go to the Target Framework field, click the arrow, scroll down to .NET Framework 4, and click it. A new window, Target Framework Change, will pop up. Click Yes, and the target framework is changed. Run the application to check it functions as before. Another good question you may have at this point is, what is the .NET Framework? For this very early beginners learning stage we will explain briefly, but this is just for awareness, and not something we need worry about, or study at length, at this point. The .NET Framework is a language-neutral software platform, installed as standard, with your Windows PC. It is not a language in itself, but provides a common language specification, execution engine, and class library, for Visual Basic, and other languages supported by .NET, such as C++, C#, JavaScript and so on, and this is integrated into Visual Studio. Within .NET, whether you write an application in Visual Basic, C#, or other language supported by .NET, the code is compiled to an intermediate language, IL, and then converted to Common Language Runtime, CLR. When the application is running, the CLR is converted to machine code, on a just-in-time basis, that is, whenever the functions or subroutines of the application are called. So that is a very brief outline of the .NET Framework. We only need to know this for awareness and overview understanding. However, If you want to learn more, you may want to conduct other detailed research and reading on your own. Finally, one more useful tip in this tutorial. You may recall from Tutorial 0, we mentioned that the product of the Visual Basic project is a Windows Executable file, a .exe file. If you do not yet know where to find that file, we will show you now. Open File Explorer and navigate to your Project Solution folder, and open that up. You will find another folder and a .sln Visual Studio Solution file. Open up the folder. You will find 3 more folders and 6 more files. Go to the top folder named bin, and open that up. We have yet another 2 folders named debug and release. Open the debug folder. There are 4 files in the debug folder. The top one has extension .exe, and this is the product of your project. This is the Windows Executable file of your project that should run on any Windows PC. You can put it on a thumb drive, share it with colleagues and friends, or even license wrap it and sell the application if you have commercial aims for your work. As a test, we will copy the .exe file and paste it to the desktop. Now with Visual Studio completely closed, double-click the .exe file to test if it runs. It runs fine. As an experiment, you could also take this file on a thumb drive and try running it on another Windows PC. It should run without any problem, provided the PC has a compatible version of the Dotnet Framework installed, as we discussed earlier. A final tip regarding the .exe file. It is a good practice when developing any larger applications, to create a shortcut for the .exe, and paste the shortcut to the desktop. That way, without Visual Studio being open, you can still run your application, and test its functions. Also, when you update and develop the application further in Visual Studio, the desktop shortcut will always run the latest edit. Okay. That was a bit of a tour around a few subjects, and tips that should be useful. In the next tutorial, we will learn about the button control, and the click event. Thanks for watching. We hope this tutorial was useful. If it helped you, please like, share, and subscribe.